And welcome, folks, to another edition of On the Hash with Hatfield. It's our final episode for the high school football season because it comes to a close coming up on Saturday with 6 state championship games, 2 at 3 different locations. I'm up in Charlottesville, University of Virginia, where I'll be calling the Class 6 and Class 5 title games alongside Andy Hayes and the NFHS Network. 11:30 a.m. is the kickoff for the Class 6 championship game featuring Highland Springs, which won the Class 5 title game a year ago, taking on defending state champion unbeaten Freedom of Woodbridge, which set the Virginia high school scoring record for a single season last year. They're unblemished at 13-0 overall. Then at 5 o'clock, Maury, which is unbeaten at 14-0, averaging almost 60 points per game under Coach Dyrri and McCain, trying to get that second state championship under his direction. They won their first state title in 80 years back in 2019. Commodores, every 2 years, they seem to run into Stonebridge, as the Bulldogs are in the state championship yet again. This is the 12th time for Mickey Thompson at the helm of that great program from Ashburn. Remember, in 2019, the Bulldogs of Stonebridge lost to Maury at Hampton University, 28-21. 2021, it's Jacob Thomas to Zeke Wimbush. Touchdown pass on the final play of the game, rolling left and throwing it back right. Here we get checked. And Stonebridge, but also at Liberty University in Lynchburg, you have a couple of teams from the 757 area code in action with the Phoebus Phantoms trying to make it a three-peat. They won the last 2 state titles in Class 3. They're now in Class 4, taking on the Salem Spartans, winners of 13 in a row, 10 state championships for that program under the direction of Coach Don Holter. They lost their opener to Liberty Christian, but here they are roaring, playing rather well behind the dynamic duo of Tennessee commit Peyton Lewis at running back, Georgia commit Chris Cole at linebacker, 2 Under Armour All-Americans. That'll be the first Liberty 11:30 kickoff there in Lynchburg. 5 o'clock kickoff, the Class 3 final, which features unbeaten Liberty Christian trying to become the first private school to win a VHSL State Football Championship, taking on Lafayette. Andy Lynn's Rams rolling right now at 12-2 on the season. Who saw them in the state championship when the year began? Probably not anybody outside of Williamsburg, but here they are trying to win their state championship. They won it back in the 2020-21 COVID condensed spring season when they beat Lord Botetourt in the final. They've got a big task on their hands at Liberty. And then out in Salem, we've got a team of reporters with VirginiaPreps.com out there for the 2 games there. Your Class 2 matchup featuring Riverheads, which has won the last 7 state championships in Class 1, now competing in Class 2 to take on undefeated Radford. The Bobcats, led by Coach Michael Christ. His dad won a state championship. Now he's going to try to win one himself in his 4th year at the helm. He's got a great quarterback in Landon Clark. Riverheads with a tremendous running back in Caden Cook Cash, known as Triple C, out there. And then your second game in the Class 1 level featuring the Essex Trojans, undefeated are they at 14-0 overall under Coach Todd Jones, taking on the Galax Maroon Tide, who began the postseason as a number 5 seed. Galax here at 10-4. It is On the Hash with Hatfield. You are watching on our Virginia Beach Sportsplex YouTube channel. You're also probably watching on our Facebook page, on Twitter or X at 757 Sports Talk, all over the web, VirginiaPreps.com, Instagram, you name it. We're all over there for you with the great folks from Hometown Sports Productions. And a lot to do on the show. We'll be joined by Larry Rubama of the Virginian-Pilot, 757teams.com Daily Press to get his thoughts on the matchups with Maury Stonebridge, as well as Lafayette and Phoebus trying to bring home state championships for the 757 area code. We'll also be hearing from Dyrri McCain of the Maury Commodores after his team's win over Indian River in the state semifinals. But I want to hit on something before we get back to the state championship games that's caught my eye here just in the last little bit is coaching changes. We've got some decorated coaches outside of the 757 area code that are well-respected, previous state championship winners that are no longer going to be coaching at the schools they've been at the last several years. And we're talking about in the case in Richmond, Manchester, Tom Hall, 194 wins, 76 losses. He steps down at Manchester after 25 seasons at the helm of the Lancers. Now, Manchester won the state championship just a few years back, not that long removed. They won one over at Hampton University when they beat Freedom of Woodbridge. And they had a great ballyhooed quarterback in Brendan Clark, who set some records and went on to Notre Dame, finished up his college career at Old Dominion. Wasn't, the college performer people had hoped. Injuries certainly affected that, but he was a tremendous quarterback to watch in high school at Manchester. Watched him in this preseason, and then he got it done, and they went undefeated. They actually set the scoring record that Freedom broke last year. They shared it with Hampton High back in 2018, though that team won the state championship. And Manchester's been a consistent winning program. This year they were on a nice hot streak. They won about, I think, 10 or 11 in a row, lost to Highland Springs 17-6 in the Region 6A championship a couple weeks ago. But he has done it at Manchester, 194 wins, 76 losses. Who takes his place? Could be someone on his staff. They could go outside. We shall see. But I hope, and I don't think Tom Hall is done coaching football at the high school ranks. I certainly hope he's not, but I think he will resurface somewhere. And the other one that was really even a bigger surprise to me was Kyle Simmons at Westfield, who won 3 consecutive state championships with the Bulldogs from 2015 to 2017, had some hellacious battles with Oscar Smith in state finals, one of which was at UVA, one of which was at Hampton University. Actually, a couple of them were at Hampton University. I got a chance to watch. One went to double overtime, one went to triple overtime. Kyle Simmons is done. We'll see if they keep a couple of those longtime assistants, guys that have been coaching Westfield blood in their in their veins there. They have Westfield there with Verbanek and Bendorf and some of those assistants that have long been with him and have coached even in Verbanek's case before Kyle Simmons as the head man. But he is done as the head man of the Westfield Bulldogs, who also got to a region championship and fell just short of making the state playoffs. They lost to Madison in the 6D final just a couple weeks ago back on Thanksgiving weekend. So we shall see a lot of other coaching changes happening across the entire state of Virginia. I saw Garfield's open. I saw Nate Murphy's not coming back to C.D. Hilton. I'm sure there will be a few jobs that open up in the 757. Jamestown's got an opening. We'll see who they go with as their next head football coach. Of course, people have talked about that crazy result that they had in the playoffs, going in at 1-9 and losing to Phoebus by a 100-4 score. And they had been shut out their 3 previous games by Lafayette, Grafton, and War Hill before that. So some coaching changes all across the entire landscape in Virginia, not just in the 757 or 804, but everywhere, as there will be a bunch of different jobs that will open up across the state. But as we mentioned, Maury, a winner last week in convincing fashion. Not rain, sleet, or snow can slow these Commodores down right now. We caught up with Coach McCain as the rain was falling, and they got up to a big lead. Just 2 minutes into the second quarter, it was already 35-0 against Indian River. And here's what he told us after his team's victory. It's On the Hash with Hatfield.
All right, here with Maury head football coach Dyrri McCain. His Commodores win it 55-0 over Indian River in the state semifinals. Coach, you're moving on to the state finals, which was the goal, I know, way back in January for your team. 14-0, you'll play through Stonebridge or Matoka, which is still finishing up as we talk here now. But, you were almost a play away from going 3-and-out, 2 possessions to begin this game, 77-yard TD strike from Montoya Newkirk to LeBron Bunn. But I think the story of the day is special teams. You blocked 2 punts. I believe it was Ari Watford and Kendall Daniels, the scoop up and run back by Corey Jacobs. That third phase of the game was mighty pivotal today, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what we've been playing all year. Good on all 3 phases. I think a lot of talk gets about our offense and the points we score, but our defense getting stopped. So shout out to our defense for getting the shutout. But yeah, special teams stepped up to the plate. I think the guys came ready to play. I was proud of them for the way that they came to play and how they finished the game. We're a team that just knows that nothing's automatic. I mean, when you get there, man, I think we've done a good job as a program of learning from our losses. So just knowing that today wasn't automatic, regardless of whoever thought that the score was going to be what it was. And then even next Saturday, it's not automatic. So we got to come and play on all 3 phases in order to win the game.
And to go with that, Indian River's got a good football team, obviously a really terrific defensive front led by Jordan Harris. But were you surprised they tried to quick kick you against? And I guess the film study paid off for your guys up front. They probably saw that throughout the year on some games as you prepared for this matchup, correct?
Yeah, I think the guys knew what was coming. But it's a testament to the guys, to the kids. They lock in, they focus. That's what it's been this year. But again, that's what happens when you lose those games straight. But the majority of those guys that's doing it is the Devontae Floyds, the Fred Johnsons, the Melvin Lowe's, Christian Murphys, Andrew McClungs. Those guys been around. So they understand that it's not automatic. So it's getting those freshmen and those younger guys to kind of understand that it's not. For the freshmen that's coming in, they look at it like it's just supposed to happen because that's what the program has been. So, but when you got that mix and those older guys kind of knowing that, we know to focus on all 3 phases. And those guys do a good job of leading.
A lot of different guys stepped up today. You mentioned the special teams aspect. We talked about it back in your Highland Springs win where Andrew McClung's leg was big. You've got return guys. You had the first two playoff games, kickoff returns to begin the game for scores. How exciting is it as a coach? You mentioned those headline guys. We know about the Johnsons, the Watfords, the Melvin Lowe's, the Devontae Floyds, but to have someone new each week, even today, a couple uncovered players that you guys know about, Corey Jacobs, Hunter Collins, make plays and step up for you throughout this game and sort of make their mark, if you will, on a big stage.
It's the program.
Yeah.
It's the program. But you talk about those guys, but they've been, they got a lot of time last year. You talk about the Hunter Collins, you talk about Corey Jacobs, Leslie Hines, that most people don't talk about, but they got a lot of time last year. We would be up on opponents, and those guys, get their shine, get their play, and they played in playoff games last year. So this stage to Corey Jacobs and the Hunter Collins and Leslie Hines, those guys, they've been there before. They've played on that stage, and some of the freshmen that got the opportunity today, they'll be in the same boat moving forward. So, it's just the program. It's the way that it moves.
Sure. Come on, let you run. I know at halftime you're up by almost 50, 49-0, but there's got to be a message in there. I'm thinking, because third quarter you came out a lot better than last week against Warwick, where you only had one play. Was that just to not let your foot off the gas, the subs come in here, and your time to step up here? And what was kind of the talk about, even though you're cruising and you're playing a pretty close to complete game, although the offense didn't have to do a whole lot given the situation of the game?
I think it was a little mix of both. I think last week kind of took into account, and they were reminded of that at halftime. And I know Coach Prev talked about it earlier on in the week about coming out faster in the second half, even though we're up by a lot. I think the guys responded to that message because it was told to them. And I also think it's young guys trying to prove themselves. And that's why it's hard to, it's not trying to like run up the score or anything like that, but you give Matt Williams those opportunities, kind of see what you got moving forward. You give the Eli Moss, who's a younger kid, the opportunity to see what we got. We had a freshman, Liam, who got a 5-yard stop catch, and we had a couple running backs who were young. So, it's their time for opportunity. I think we had Sam, who's a freshman, got to get a sack. So, when they're being productive in these games, moving forward, those guys aren't going to be afraid the stage isn't going to be too big.
Lastly, your offense is putting up record numbers. Your defense has 15 TDs scored this year, and I think now 7 shutouts. Your special teams has showed up in some key spots. You've conquered 7-5-7 challenges like Warwick and Indian River the last couple of weeks, and other teams you've played the last few years. You've beaten Dinwiddie and Highland Springs, state champions. There's one more challenge still awaiting you at UVA next week. I know there's probably some unfinished business, and be honest with me, you'd rather see Stonebridge because you have some unfinished business from 2 years ago. It'd be the rubber match. Every 2 years you seem to play them. You beat them in 19, you lost to them in 21. Give me your thought on just one step away from completing the mission.
That's what it's been about. And I think that the year that we've had through the regular season and through now, who cares about, I know people talked about the way we played in October, averaging 80 points and 6 shutouts and all that type of stuff. It's not going to matter if we don't get it done next Saturday. Nobody's going to remember that. Nobody's going to talk about it. Who cares? So the important job is getting it done next week. If it's Stonebridge, even better. So we're ready for whoever wants to come out on that side. And I'm pretty sure that they'll be ready for us. But it's something that we've been working towards. And we want to be back there where we feel like we deserve to be because we put in the work, not just the players or the coaches, but it's been a lot of work that's been put in. So we deserve to be there, and we can't wait till December 9th.
Well, congrats on the win. We'll see you next Saturday, December 9th at UVA, and all the best.
Thank you.
So that was Maury head football coach Dyrri McCain. It's On the Hash with Hatfield. Like, share, and subscribe to our Virginia Beach Sportsplex YouTube channel. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors' friends, and your friends' neighbors. Coach McCain's team has been just mighty impressive all year long. Stonebridge won't be intimidated by them, nor will the Commodores be afraid of what the Bulldogs will present them. And you think about which teams have the most pressure on state championship Saturday. Certainly Freedom and Maury with what they have done statistically and as dominant as they have been. And they're playing programs that have a rich history and pedigree. Lauren Johnson Springers, they've been there before. They know what it takes. Stonebridge, that single wing, it's hard to prepare for and simulate and defend and deal with for an entire game. Just back in 2019, Maury jumped out on them 28-0, and the Bulldogs were able to ease their way back in to make it a 28-21 game. We'll highlight the keys to victory for each of these games, I think, and tell you what I think must transpire for those teams to win across the board. But state semifinal Saturday, it was a day to remember for Maury because they played another 7-5-17. They've heard a lot of the chirping from Green Run a couple of years. Heard it from Warwick and their awesome defense. They heard it from Indian River at a defensive front led by Jordan Harris, who had a wonderful year. and nobody has seemed to solve what Maury can do. Now can someone outside the area code do it? They've gone on the road and been tested playing the likes of Dinwiddie and Highland Springs and Wise from Maryland, but so too have the Bulldogs. They played Quince Orchard and Good Counsel, and they played some quality foes. So should be a fun one. The other two teams that were able to advance, Phoebus, I'll admit it, I was wrong, folks. I had King George. I thought King George would get it done, and for 3 quarters, I was looking like a smart guy being on that limb by myself, and the limb did break in the 4th quarter because the Phoebus defense said, not today, not today, not on my watch, with Anthony Reddick and Tayshawn Stevenson and those guys leading the way off the edge. And Brendan Thompson's been one of my favorite linebackers to watch this year, just bone-crunching people, hitting people left and right. And Phoebus does it in all 3 phases. Their offense didn't make a lot of mistakes. The freshman quarterback, Marika Spanks, coming of age. And Davion the Bull Roberts, what can you say about him now? I think it's 28 rushing touchdowns. He has been mighty impressive to go with those skill position guys like Paul Stephen Davis and Keontae Gray. And Jeremy Blunt's Phantoms, they shut down 2 wide receivers as far as keeping them out of the end zone that are as good a pair as there is in the state, with Mekhi White, the Maryland commit, and Chance Wiggins, the Virginia Tech commit. In front on Phoebus by multiple scores. King George got in front, but it wasn't by multiple scores, and their offense didn't quite fire off the way it needed to. And in Lafayette's case, they played a bend but don't break type of football game with Peter Cook and Nazir Walmart and James Spencer and those guys, and Eric Zeladon at linebacker. They're not the biggest of dudes up front. They're tough, hard-nosed sons of guns, as they say. And they brought it. Good running game. Offensive line did its job. Elijah Matthews makes a couple key catches. I think he'll be very crucial for them as they go up against Liberty Christian. And for Brentsville, we had on Coach Lauren White last week. You do wonder what could have been, what might have been if they had a healthy Caleb Alexander. Another good year, but 3rd straight season, they go down in the state semifinals against a team from Tidewater the previous 2 years by lopsided margins against Phoebus. This time a much more competitive game, but Lafayette was just the better team, 17-7, as they took out the Tigers in that one. We're going to step aside, hear from Larry Rubama of the Virginian-Pilot 757 teams in Daily Press to get his thoughts on the matchups. And then we'll give you some predictions and keys to victory to finish up this edition of On the Hash with Hatfield. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube page. And make sure you watch the championship games on Saturday as well on the NFHS Network. We'll step aside, though, and hear from some of our sponsors that make all of our presentations and productions possible for you at the Plex, whether it is high school football, whether it be field hockey, lacrosse, soccer, you name it, football games, we got it for you. The Field Hockey Podcast, On the Hash with Hatfield, and, of course, 757 Saturday Sports Talk with yours truly and the coach, Ed Young. We'll be back in just a couple minutes right here from the Plex.
Well, it's everybody's favorite time of year again. Time to prepare to make your annual donation to that infernal revenue service. So get off your W-2 and call John Maynard at John's Tax Service. 455-6763.
Man, I wish I was out there.
Let's unretire.
Why not? Randy Moss.
Dan Marino? You alright?
Hey, Grandpa!
Grandpa?
I still got it.
22. 22.
Career game number 13.
Let's see. Hey. I need that senior discount. That's the game. Mr. Marino, you mind if I take a selfie? Thank you.
I'm good right here, bro.
Unretirement? Who'd be dumb enough to do that?
I haven't even thought about it. You know who I'm buying gifts for, man. It's just it's busy time. You know, as we talked before, man, that overlap between football and basketball. Basketball coaches are saying, "Are you coming to my games?" I said, "Look, I'm still got football." You know, and it's they don't realize how busy it is.
Listen, Larry, I made the dreaded mistake, although it was kind of worth it. I went from the Maury Indian River game we were both at in the state semis in the rain last Saturday at Powhatan Field to a basketball event at Princess Anne. I got home that night. I fell asleep. I don't even remember where I fell asleep at. It was on the couch, on the bed, the recliner. It might have been on the floor for all I know. I was just participate the next morning, and then I have my 7-year-old niece tugging, and I see you with the wife on Facebook with the grandkids. They're wanting to do Christmas decorations and put this on the TV, and I'm like, I'm done today. I can't move.
She gave me some energy because I just seen her face. I had to do it, man. I had to do it for her, but I got the energy, and I felt she gave me some energy, so it was good. It was good.
Let's dive into these games. Enough about our family life and Christmas decorations, all that babble, because we've got some exciting matchups across the entire state of Virginia, all 6 championship games, which we'll have scrolling across our ticker, the scores from last week, as well as the matchups on deck for University of Virginia coming up on Saturday, Liberty, as well as out in Salem. But let's start with, I think, the giant matchup that people are looking forward to, Chapter 3 of the Maury Stonebridge side. Now, we saw the one in 2019 where the Commodores got out to the big lead, a couple of touchdowns by Keandre Lambert-Smith, who's now at Penn State. Stonebridge came roaring back. Commodores held them off. A couple of years ago, it was Heartbreak Hotel for Maury. They had a lead in that game. The last 5 minutes, Jacob Thomas throws 2 touchdown passes, one of which went to Zeke Wimbush, which made SportsCenter on the final play of the game. As you look at this matchup for Chapter 3, I don't want to make the folks from Nova mad, but I've kind of gone out publicly and said, I'm not sure it's going to be that close this time. I just look at Maury, and they look like a machine. And the offense, I compare them a little bit to, Larry, you watched a lot of great football, is they remind me a little bit of that 2008 Oscar Smith offense that had Philip Sims and Perry Jones, but they might have more weapons than that offense, which is saying something because that offense was loaded with Tim Smith and a bunch of receivers.
Yeah, I think that team had 4 guys that went Division I at wide receiver. I mean, and a great quarterback, a great running back. And I agree with you, Matt. It's like they're so talented. Because Maury has not seen an offense like this, you wonder how it's going to take them time to kind of adjust. But Dyrri knows how to do that. Privet knows how to do that. They know how to adjust. But that's my only concern. And I think it'll be coming in the paper tomorrow. I think I picked Maury by 3 touchdowns. But it's still the fear factor because, Mickey, their coach, Stonebridge coach, has been there for a long time. So Mickey Thompson has been there, done it many, many times. But I know that Maury wants this one bad. They want it really, really bad. And I believe they're going to do it. I really do. I believe they're going to do it.
I think so too, Larry. And you bring up Mickey Thompson, what a great coach he is. Dyrri McCain's done a wonderful job at Maury. The thing that jumps out at me about this game, you bring up that offense, which is very difficult to deal with, the single wing. They had a special player at quarterback in Jacob Thomas a couple years ago. Now they have Brendan Pena, who's good, but I don't think they have that scary guy on offense, whereas Maury has more of your scary guys. It's obviously a very fundamentally disciplined attack. But when you look at this game, I think the misconception is that Maury's all throw. The last 2 meetings, they've actually outgained Stonebridge in rushing, whereas Stonebridge has had more passing in these matchups. What do you think about sort of the backs for Maury real quickly against that Stonebridge defense? I think they can stay pretty balanced. How about you?
I do too. I missed part of you cut out, but when you talk about Maury's running backs, they got 3 running backs, one that went over 1,000 yards, 2 that went over 800 yards. They got a quick one, they got a one that's kind of like a little power one. I think having those 3 different options is going to keep Stonebridge on their toes. And then of course you got 5 wide receivers. They got 20 or more catches, led by LeBron Bond, who has over 1,000 yards. I just think their offense. Who you gonna try to stop? You can't stop 1. You can't stop 2. You can't stop 3. They got so many different weapons, and I think that's going to be the key for Maury. And then, of course, Torrey has been playing fantastic. He can throw the ball, but he's also a dangerous runner, and I think that's going to also play an impact. If they try to stop the rushing game, he can. The passing game, he can just go back, look for his holes, and take off. And he's over 4,000 all-purpose yards. It's been a long time since we've seen that.
Yeah, and I think we have to commend both these teams for the schedules they play, Larry, because not only did Maury play Highland Springs and Dinwiddie and Wise and Dyrri McCain beat up the schedule, but look at Mickey Thompson's first 4 games. He played Good Counsel, which you know a little bit about.
Yeah, a little bit about them. Yeah.
played Madison. He played some heavy hitters. Martinsburg out of West Virginia. Quince Orchard.
Which won the state title? Yeah, they won the state title, right?
They were looking at it when they looked in August, September. They had an idea they would see each other again. It's been every couple of years, and here we are again.
And I agree totally. I mean, I remember talking to Dyrri when he said, "Man, I'm gonna do." He told me the schedule, and then don't forget they also scrimmaged Gonzaga and Phoebus. So he knew that he wanted to have these guys ready. I got a story that's going to be running in tomorrow's paper that's talking about the seniors and how he really wants this for the seniors. They've been there. They went through COVID. They lost the last 2 times in the state finals, including that one on the last second pass. And he really wants it for them, and they want it. They want it really bad. And I think that's gonna. I just think I can't see Maury losing this game. I really can't. But it's going to be a good one, man. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'll have the call on the NFHS Network along with Andy Hayes there at UVA, and Larry will have all the coverage for you with the great folks from the Pilot, 757teams.com, Daily Press as well, and I'll follow them on Twitter or X at LH Rubama for Larry and 757 Teams, TEAMZ. Larry, before we move off this game, what's the one matchup you're most curious about? Is it an individual, receiver versus defensive back? Is it the pass rush getting to Tory Newkirk if Stonebridge can get him off this game? Maybe the Maury offense trying to run the ball, or maybe like you said, that defense against the singling. What's the one or two matchups that you're most intrigued about in this game?
The two that I'm looking at is one. Is Maury able to adapt to that Stonebridge offense? It's different. We don't see, like I said, we don't see teams out here running that. And Maury's done a good job stopping everybody else. The only team I thought that had an interesting offense was Dinwiddie. So, but that's going to be the key. And then I just think also Stonebridge is big. And on the defensive line, and how is Maury's offensive line going to be able to battle against them? They're the ones that make them go. That offensive line, we had a story in today's paper about them that they've been geared for this. And the one thing that they've done that they didn't do 2 years ago when they played against Stonebridge is now they got an offensive line, they got a defensive line. Nobody's going both ways. I think that's a huge key for Maury. They're not going to get tired like they did when they played Stonebridge a while back. And I think, that's key. When you have a team that gets worn down like that, by the third or fourth quarter, the other team is just running all over them. But I think with Maury, I'm really interested to see how Maury's offensive line will do against Stonebridge's defensive line.
Is that the common thread, Larry, for whatever team it is comes out of the 757, whether it be, in this case, Maury, Lake Taylor over the years, Oscar Smith, you look at some of the beach schools like Ocean Lakes and Bayside in recent years, Western Branch last year made it to a state semifinal. If you don't have linemen that can go, I guess depth on the trenches, you can't stop some of these big boys from Nova or even be other parts of the state, Richmond, Roanoke for that matter. Is that pretty much what it boils down to in your eyes?
I think so. The team I'll never forget, I remember when my son played for Bayside, and they beat Oscar Smith in that region final, and then they played, I think it was Hermitage, and they were in the game with Hermitage for a half, but that third, fourth quarter, they just got worn out, and that's why it's so important. You think about you've been playing since August. Your body's gonna get tired, and then you add in the enthusiasm, the adrenaline that you have from a football game like a state championship. All that wears on you too. So that's what I think the key is that offensive defensive line. And when I talked to the Maury's coaches, the one thing they said was being able to have an offensive line and a defensive line was the biggest thing they knew, and they realized they learned that from the last time when they lost to Stonebridge in the final.
I've said earlier on the pod, Larry, I'm going to see if you feel before we get to the Phoebus and Lafayette games, that I feel like and this is no slight to Highland Springs or Stonebridge, which are great teams, but I think our takeaway coming out of UVA Saturday could be, man, I wish we could have get a Maury Freedom matchup, just because Freedom's offense is putting up over 60 a game. They set the state record last year, and Maury's at about 58, 59 a game. Wouldn't that be a dream matchup if we already had the cross brackets to get the two teams from the state semis we thought we'd have now in the state finals in Class 6 with Freedom Highland Springs, but wouldn't it be such a delight if we had a Maury Freedom State Championship matchup, and perhaps in the future, because these two teams are loaded with a bunch of good juniors?
I would love to see, man. I'm telling you, look, man, they can have us all come back again the following week and go back up to Virginia. They can play the game then, right?
We'll play basketball for more weeks. Why not? Who cares? It's all right.
Exactly. We're still in 2023, so let them go ahead and play that game. But no, I agree. That's what everybody's gonna be saying when we leave that game on Saturday. Everybody's gonna be saying, man, what happened if those two teams played against each other? So.
And listen, we can have Highland Springs and Stonebridge play each other. They played some great games.
That would be a good one too.
They went to overtime a couple years ago. Well, we can have that. It doesn't have to even be a consolation game. You can just have two redo championships if you want.
I would like that. I like that.
Yeah. How about Phoebus here? You've seen Phoebus. You and Marty O'Brien have covered them from wall to wall here. Their defense is unreal. That Warwick game. All the talk was about the Warwick defense, which, by the way, Maury heard about that, and they got a little motivated by that in their region championship Thanksgiving weekend.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's just a tad, just a pinch. But my goodness, that defensive front is ferocious. I think they've given up 44 points on the year. Think back to some of the great defenses you've covered over the years. I mean, there's been a bunch of them. Oscar Smith's had some.
Oscar Smith had one. Right.
I mean, the Hampton legendary 90s run. Their defense, if they finish this off on Saturday against Salem, which, by the way, has a running back going to Tennessee and Peyton Lewis, who had almost 400 yards in the game last week, which is insane. They've got 2 All-Americans, and Chris Cole going to Georgia at linebacker, Peyton Lewis going to Tennessee. But it feels like nobody on this side of the state, other side of the state, they might feel this way, that nobody thinks Phoebus is going to lose this game. How about you?
I don't think they are either. I mean, even though the one thing that did concern me early on was the fact that when their quarterback went down, but that freshman came in and they haven't missed a beat. But that with Stevenson and Reddick, and then you got all the other guys at linebacker. I mean, their defense. I mean, Blunt has those guys playing, and they realize we can't let this be the year that Phoebus loses, and I believe that's how they're playing it. I mean, they are really, really strong. When I saw them play the game against Warwick, I mean, very few. Warwick couldn't do much against them. I think it was maybe the third or fourth quarter when they started to move the ball a little bit, but they're tough. They are really tough, and they know they're no nonsense as well. They're going to stop whatever you can do. If you can pass it, we're going to show you how to shut down the pass. You're going to run the ball, we're going to shut down the middle. And I think I like Phoebus' chance. I really do.
Yeah, their roots were laid by the late, great Bill D., who obviously coached Smith before he passed away, and then Stan Sexton carried it on, and Jeremy Blunt, who played for Coach D, now trying to go for a three-peat, which is so hard to do, 34 straight wins. And I was thinking about this the other day because someone brought it up to me, Larry. I can't even recall, even when they've played Oscar Smith and teams, on the other side of the water, I can't recall even anybody that they've had success on them, but running the ball on them, A, and then B, you never think of Phoebus with even all the great players they produce. Taj Boyd, who was a great quarterback. Then Sean Alston, this receiver, this playmaker, that guy. You don't think of them being a flashy, explosive offense. It's just workmanlike and old school football, right?
Ground it out. Grind it out. Run it. Throw a little pass here and there. Run it again. They always got 2 or 3 running backs who don't mind doing it. And then it comes down to field position. They seem to find a way to be able to get you. You have to punt the ball to them, and they get the ball around midfield, and then that's when the offense attacks. As I watched that game against Warwick, I just kept thinking, as anybody, when I made the prediction, I was like, I can't believe I said it was going to be like 21 points for one and 14 for the other. I don't know what I was thinking with those 2 defenses like that, but Phoebus, they, like I said, they get locked in and they get the job done. They might give up a little play here and there, but they find a way to be able to shut it down.
Well, I don't know about you. I was jealous of my guy, Will Garlick, maybe like you were of Marty, that we were at the Maury 55-0 shellacking of Indian River. They got to see the great game that was 13-12 going into the fourth quarter. And you think, well, how's that a great game? And you people say, oh, it was so physical and tough. There was 2 safeties. There was 2 field goals. There was a punt return for a score. They still play an exciting brand of football, even though it's different than maybe what people have become accustomed to over the years with, say, Oscar Smith's offense in the 2000s when Lansdowne had Percy Harvin under Chris Beatty. And the aired out attacks that Maury's now got with Dyrri McCain leading the way in this Artori Newkirk, who's certainly looking like a player of the year candidate, not just at the regional and district level, perhaps in the state if he gets it done on Saturday. But they're a different type of team, yet they play an intense brand of football.
They do, and again, I know just like with Maury, they kind of feed off of Dyrri and the other coaches' persona. It seems like Phoebus does the same thing. You see how intentional Blunt is. You see how direct he is, and that's how they play as a defense. They dare you to do something, and then the thing is, can you adjust to what they do? I just like the way the intensity they come with it when they play.
They've got a swagger, and they've got monikers and nicknames just like Maury does and Lake Tedder with Hank Sawyer's teams do. They we heard the Salem defense call their defense the Black D. I think they're called the Black Ops or the Phoebus defensive guys.
I did see it. Yeah.
They've used. As we move to the Lafayette game, so you're picking Phoebus in that one, correct?
Yes, I am. Yep.
As am I. I took the bait against King George last week, and I was burned. I'll admit it. I was right for 3 quarters. I even told Mike Privet last week on the sideline after the Maury game. He was like, "Oh, he's going to give the Phoebus people as he didn't love him from his playing at Lake Terrace a hard time." But obviously, nice rally for Jeremy Blunt's team to get it done against the Fox's team with 2 great receivers in Mekhi White going to Maryland and Chance Wiggins headed to Virginia Tech. How about Lafayette? This was like the hardest team in the 7-5-7 to get it done. Andy Lynn's had a great year. They took out Lake Taylor and Heritage decisively in the region semis and finals. Got it done in the state semis against Brentsville District on the road. But this Liberty Christian team is no joke. They got a running back going to Clemson, and it could be the first private school to win a VHSL Public School State Football Championship.
On top of that, well, the one thing is, like I said, Lafayette has had a great season. One of the things I thought, we thought that it might be a rebuilding season when the season first began, and it hasn't been. They've been able to keep rolling. But the thing about this one is, not only are they playing against a tough opponent, but it's basically a home game for Liberty Christian. They're playing in their backyard. And I think that's gonna have a huge effect, because you have all those home people that are able to come see the game, sleep in your own bed, all those different types of things that definitely play a part, especially in a game that's going to be very emotional. And just like you said, I saw the roster, I saw what they've done this year. Liberty Christian, they look tough. I think I'm picking Liberty Christian because the game is at Liberty. I just feel that as great a season Lafayette has had, I think it comes to an end on Saturday.
Yeah, I think in talking about Maury too, I think the offensive line for Lafayette averages just under 200 pounds. I think in a lot of ways, this is no slight to them. This is a kudos. I think they've overachieved for what they've had. Injuries.
Exactly.
You get to this level, you're playing the Liberties. I said backyard today. They said backyard. It's their front yard. They play basically on the surface. So it's like a home game for them, a home away from home. It is their home field.
Yeah. And that makes a huge difference. I mean, you're traveling, you're coming up from driving up there, and you're excited, but they're a familiar surroundings, familiar atmosphere. That plays a huge part.
Yeah, I think if they got in front, it feels like the two games where I don't even know if the Maury Stonebridge game, the lead matters early for those two teams because they've both been able to show the ability to come back. But I feel like if you're going to beat Phoebus, you have to get in front. And if you're Lafayette, if you're going to win this game, You've got to get an early lead and play that wing tee smash mouth football against Liberty Christian and dare them to throw like Phoebus did a couple years ago when they got interceptions and held them off at the end.
Right, and you got to, as every coach says, you look for those big plays, a play here, play there. You got to have something that goes your way to kind of turn the momentum towards you, and they got to take that crowd out of the game. So they need to jump on them early, and then just maintain as you keep going through. So I'm not saying that Lafayette can't win, that's for sure, but I just feel like being that the game is being played in Liberty, it's like you said, it's a home game for them.
Yeah, it really is. I'll get you on this. We appreciate the time here. I could talk with you all day, and I'll see you up at UVA on Saturday. Larry, tell the folks what they can find on the paper and online for your work for the state championships. And I can't tell you how many times I get tapped. This is football. And this is a compliment to you and your team over there. They tap me and they say, "Hey, when's all Tidewater coming out for football and basketball?" You got to ask Rubama. I said, "I'm not the one doing that." So tell the folks, give me an ETA. You don't have to give them the exact day and hour, but give them an idea when it'll be out in the paper, how they can find it, and get their copy of that for the fall sports and football.
Yeah, I believe it's going to be around Christmas time. I know, in fact, we'll be doing the voting coming up. We've done a little bit already. I believe it's Christmas time, around that time, and they try to make it a big time. But it would definitely be this month. Looking forward to it. People don't realize, I see all these guys who make the all-region and all-state teams. We're now dealing with teams in 5 different divisions, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then, of course, in 5, you got 2 regions. So just keep looking at 757 teams. Follow me as well as LH Rubama. And the other thing I'll do too is when we LH Rubama, I'll be putting out different stuff when it looks like we're gonna have it, so I can get people to start looking towards it. But I've told a lot of kids have told me, we care about all Tidewater instead of all state, and I'm like, man, I appreciate that. But it's a very hard team to pick, especially now the fact that we're picking not only on the south side but also the north side as well, on the peninsula, and it makes it a very, very tough choices to make. But I enjoy it, and like you, Matt, you and I both do this. We try to get the recognition to the kids, man. They work so hard, as well as the coaches, and we do it for them. And believe me, I could care less about me, but it's about the kids.
Absolutely. You do a fantastic job with it. It's a badge of honor for those that make it. I know a lot of coaches say that they remember when they were all Tidewater. I've run into all different football coaches and basketball coaches that we've covered now. We feel like old men. I mean, I just got to give you a funny one, Larry, before I let you run. I got the other day, I don't even know this. I saw it on Facebook. Ramon Snowden, who we covered at Kellogg's, now the girls basketball coach at Cox. I'm like, how old am I? I remember when he was an 8th grader. I feel like, that made me feel anxious. I heard that just the other day. So, I mean, but it's true. And all you hear about usually is the ones that they say were the snubs. You never hear about, you got that one right, or that was a good call.
Right. No, yeah.
That's how it always is with these teams, but we all do it for the kids' sake, for sure.
That's what we do it for, and I remember when I was in high school, and I remember the different teams that they had, and it's an honor to be able to be named to these types of teams. And so we don't take it lightly. We don't take it lightly at all. So we make sure we try to put everything we can into it.
Awesome work. That's Larry Rubama from the Virginian-Pilot Daily Press, 757teams.com. Find him online at pilotonline.com as well. He'll have coverage for you at the State Football Championships. Safe travels to Charlottesville, my friend. I'll see you there, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. You be safe as well, Matt. You take care. Get some rest. I know that's an oxymoron, but get some rest.
Yeah, I'll do that maybe come Monday when I end up passing out on the floor somewhere with my niece jumping on me and needing to go to school or something. But that is the one and only Larry Rubama. We'll come back with more here to put the finishing touches on this edition of On the Hash with Hatfield. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, whether you're watching on Twitter, Facebook, Virginia Preps. And, of course, we've got more to come your way, and we'll hear from our sponsors right now at the Plex. Stay tuned.
Revitalize your property today. Shine Time is your turnkey solution for all power washing and painting projects. With years of experience in both residential and large-scale commercial settings, their focus is to bring new life to your home, building, or outdoor space and ensure 100% customer satisfaction every time. Shine Time Power Wash.
I grew up here. I know this town. I know the people here. More important, they know me. As a banker at Town Bank, we become part of the communities we serve. The people who bank with us, our members, know us. When you bank with Town Bank, you'll know your banker. You'll know you can reach us, and you'll know we're here for you.
That's the DQ Cheeseburger Lovers Deal. 2 singles for $5 or 2 doubles for $7 for a limited time. So, how is it? Deal this good speaks for itself, I guess. DQ, happy tastes good.
Football Championships taking place this weekend. Let's close it out with that. My predictions sure to go wrong. What's going to transpire? I think I went 9-3 on the state semis, but that leaves my 757 Saturday Sports Talk cohort, the coach Ed Young, who you will hear from. We'll be on with a special early edition so that I can get my way over to Charlottesville. He's got a basketball game down in the Tidewater area, but I've got football games to call alongside Andy Hayes on the NFHS network. So we'll be on from about 8 a.m. approximately. Sometimes technical glitches with Ed's computer from home or school or work can be an issue. Sometimes mine can be an issue too, but we'll be on approximately 8 a.m. till about, 9:45, maybe 10 a.m. We'll see how long we go with the pod. And we'll actually play a little special fact or fiction with the surprise guest on the show. We'll hear from one of the basketball coaches. So we're starting to morph into basketball season with the pod, and we'll be getting closer to springtime. We'll have some neat spring sports and different podcasts and special pop-up things on the show. And if you missed any of last week's show, someone brought up to me they missed the 757 Saturday Sports Talk last week with Admirals hockey coach Jeff Carr. It's available on our YouTube channel. A lot of the specialized interviews. If you missed the interview with Larry, you don't want to watch the entire podcast, you just want to hear what Larry had to say, you can find that specialized as well. Just like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll get a notification when a new clip goes up or when something goes live, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, you name it, field hockey. We got you covered with the great folks from Hometown Sports Productions and the Virginia Beach Sportsplex. All right, let's get to the championship games. Let's go from 1 to 6 here with the quick keys to victory and my quick hitters with the picks on these games. Robert Anderson's got a full preview for folks to read on VirginiaPreps.com. Tedrin Tucker's been outstanding for Galax. He's got almost 400 rushes this year. He had 222 yards and a couple TDs in their state semifinal win over Honaker. 2,242 yards in the season. They surprised me by beating Honaker, who was my preseason number 1 pick to win the whole kit and caboodle. This game, I'm going to go with Galax to beat Essex 26-20 is my score. A little different than what Marcel T. Mason has for us, as well as Coach Young, who I'm sure he will chime in on it. The keys to the game, simply as Robert outlines for Galax, keep on a straight path. They've got to avoid the early deficit and shut down the Essex run game, because Essex didn't have a whole lot of offensive firepower in that game. They were without their starting running back, but they want to keep this thing close to the vest. And in Essex case, pass on its own terms. They don't throw the football a whole lot. They got a quarterback in Zay Bundy, who was previously the starting center for the team. They don't have that D1 stud anymore. And Cam Robinson, who was a defensive player of the year, now playing at UVA, win the turnover battle. Even though Galax had 49 points the last time out, it could be a lower scoring matchup. And then you get the 2-point conversions because the kicking game could be a little dicey here, and Essex usually goes with 2-point conversions. Yandel Vera is very good and consistent in the kicking game for Galax, and that might be why I swing the game. I think the kicking game is going to help in one of these lower-level games, either the Class 1 or the Class 2 game. Going to Class 2, Radford Riverheads, this is not an easy call. You have 2 superstar players with Caden Cook-Cash, Triple C for Riverheads, who's getting recruited by UVA and some others. Landon Clark, who's already committed to Elon at quarterback, plays some defensive back for the Bobcats, and he's had a marvelous year in Cook-Cash's case. He's got already in his career 103 touchdowns and counting. That's just unbelievable. Clark's case, he's thrown for 3,100 yards, 36 touchdowns with 7 INTs. He's also run for 25 touchdowns. So he's got literally 61 TDs produced this season, which is 4th in VHSL single-season history. Radford's keys, they got to hold Cook-Cash to maybe not 50 yards, but if they can keep him under his monster game, that'll give them a chance. The efficiency has got to be there in the passing game without turning the football over, and they got to limit the number of hits on Clark because he does go both ways. You want to keep him fresh in this game. In Riverheads' case, I think they got to handle the adversity because there have been some games where they'll have some negative plays, get behind, but you're not out of the game. You're still in the game. Be on the upper end of the physicality. You want to set a tone there in the trenches and then take what the defense gives you, whether it's Cook-Cash or even getting other running backs involved, whether it be Triple C, even Jonathan Talbot and Brendan Fortune can run the ball and be effective. I've got it scored 21-17 in favor of the Bobcats of Radford. Over in Class 3, Lafayette taking on Liberty Christian. I think this is going to be the hardest maybe task for any team of the 6 to knock off somebody. It's Liberty Christian playing in their own backyard with Gideon Davidson, who's a Clemson commit junior. He's got a junior blocker who's committed to Clemson and Easton Ware. Weston Woodard, Seminole District Defensive Lineman of the Year. LCA is going to try to avoid those drive crippling miscues that plagued them a couple years ago in their state championship loss to Phoebus. They had about 3 or 4 interceptions from Davis Lane in that game. Impose their will with a bigger line. Lafayette's line is not as big as we talked about with Larry earlier, and they're going to try to stand tall in the red zone and make Lafayette have to settle for field goals, not get touchdowns. In the case of the Rams, for Andy Lynn's team, they got to steal a possession in this game. Whether it be an onside kick, a fake punt, do something to steal a possession in this game. Pop the play-action pass. Don't be afraid to do it with Hayden Oleski. Hit the tight end if you have to. Elijah Matthews, take a shot down the field. What do you have to lose? It's the state championship. Come out with your hair on fire. And then set the edge, I think, defensively. They've got some guys in Cook, Peter Cook and Eric Zeladon that can keep Davidson from getting to the outside and being a locomotive here. Make them have to take chunks, not small 3-4 yard chunks, not the mega yards in the running game. Prediction wise, I don't see this as close. I think I got it something like 35-14 in favor of LCA Liberty Christian. In Class 4, you've got the Phoebus Salem game. I'm not going to pick against the Phantoms 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to go Phantoms 17-14 in this game, but I will caution. I would worry if they get behind and having to win the game because as far as with a freshman quarterback, Maricus Banks has been very, very solid in 2 games. But you tell me the last time a freshman quarterback steered his team to a state championship. It just doesn't happen very often. Now, he's also blessed with having one of the most unbelievable defenses in VHSL history. So it's not like he's asked to do a whole lot. But if he is asked to do a whole lot coming from behind, it could be tough sled. As far as the keys go, Salem's got to hold up in the trenches because Phoebus does have the advantage in the line of scrimmage, I think. Both their defensive line collapse in the pocket on the Salem O-line and also being able to block and open up holes for Davion Roberts, who I think could be the player of this game with 28 TDs coming in. There's so much attention on Peyton Lewis. Turn takeaways into points. Salem has gotten some games with 4 takeaways like the EC last game. If they can get points out of them, it puts the Phoebus defense a little bit on its heels to a degree, which they haven't seen all year. And then force 3rd and long. You want to make that 9th grade trigger man beat you through the air on 3rd down situations. For Phoebus, don't let Lewis get loose. I mean, he's the one guy that can really go the distance. He had 370 yards rushing last week, which is just, I mean, that still just boggles my mind. Keep the pocket clean for Banks. You know, if he's having to run for his life here, that could be dangerous. And then field position is going to be big for Phoebus. It actually tilted the game for them in the second half against King George, and I think it can be crucial. Again, as for the Class 5 and Class 6 games at UVA that I'll be calling on the NFHS Network with Andy Hayes, Maury taking on Stonebridge. Start with the Bulldogs because I think this is viewed as, and you know, I want to make sure I emphasize this. Some of the folks outside the 757 think, you know, you're not giving much of a chance to Highland Springs and Stonebridge. Listen, they've got Hall of Fame coaches, Lauren Johnson and Mickey Thompson. They have a chance. They're in the final game. But I think just common sense tells you with the way Maury and Freedom have been doing what they've been doing statistically, they're going in as the team expected to win. Doesn't mean they will win. In Stonebridge's case, what do they have to do to win? Well, biggest thing is they got to minimize the big plays because Maury gets those 40-plus yard scoring strikes, and before you blink, you're out of the game. So they can't let them come out and pretty much put you out of reach, and you have to abandon the running game entirely. Second thing is shorten the game. I mean, take a page out of what Bill Parcells and the Giants did in Super Bowl 25 against the Buffalo Bills, where they had that time of possession edge of almost 41 minutes to 19 minutes. And you had Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, and the offensive firepower and personnel for Marv Levy's team watching on the sideline almost helplessly. And then third thing is win special teams. Commodores have a good kicker in Andrew McClung. They've got some fleet-footed return men. They ran 2 kickoffs back in the regional quarters and semis for scores. If Stonebridge is plus in terms of points on the board, field goals, block punt, kickoff return in that department for special teams, then this becomes a toss-up type of game. I think that they have a much better chance to win. In Maury's case, a quick start is imperative because they don't want this to be a seesaw affair. They don't want to give and breathe confidence and life into Stonebridge to where it's in the second half and they feel like they're on the same level as them. Stay on the attack. Back in 2019, had that comfortable lead in third quarter. They got outgained 52-21. They don't want a repeat of that. And third thing, third down conversions. Numbers show it. When they won it, they were better on third downs. 7 of 12 in 2019, 4 of 11 on third downs in 2021. They lost and they had to go for fourth down 5 times. So I've got it Commodores by a pretty wide margin, 42-16. I hope the Bulldogs people don't bite me and get mad at me and never want to talk to me again. I'm just being honest with how I feel what's going to transpire. Doesn't mean that's what I'm rooting for. Or, it's going to happen that way. It's just that's honestly how I feel. What's going to transpire there. Class 6, Highland Springs and Freedom. I think it's your best game on the board. It's the last game we'll touch on here. Christian Martin, his final game in a Highland Springs uniform, decorated quarterback who's statistically not doing the same things he did a season ago when he was the state player during Class 5, but still very effective, running the option well for Lauren Johnson's team. He's been a good decision maker. I think he's going to be without one of his wide receivers that's key in Tomandre Braxton. So I'm curious to see how he adjusts and adapts to that. And as I pull up the preview that Danny Lewis has up there on VirginiaPreps.com, give you a couple quick bullet points as far as the keys go to this matchup as the Springers are in their state championship game now, I think for the 9th time, if that serves me right here in program history. For Highland Springs, first order of business is set the tempo. I think that their strength is the running game with Eric Bird and Shakari Henley and Martin. And it's pretty simple that their production in the run game is more than double the pass. So that's where you want to go here. Keep it close. Freedom has a margin of victory that's 51.3 points per game. Give yourself a chance in the fourth quarter because these guys have been clutch time and time again. And ignore the noise. All this talk about Freedom being the best program in the state right now, best team. And if Highland Springs pays attention to that, it'll get them off their game and off the script, if you will, what they have to do to accomplish their mission of going from Class 5 to the highest class and winning the state championship. For Freedom, pedal to the metal. I mean, they've been go, go, go all year long. There's no reason for them to slow it down and become conservative or, play a methodical type of game. I mean, do what Maury did when they played them back in early September. I mean, granted, Noah Jenkins was out of that game, but they had 102 yards in the first quarter. So take a couple shots, see what Highland Springs does and how they, react to it. Second thing is control the running game, because I mentioned it with Martin and Bird. It's really what allows the play action to open up for them in the shots down the field vertically. And the Freedom defense, it's not hurting for speed or athleticism. They do have some questions about depth. And I think if this game gets in the third and fourth quarter and some of those guys going both ways, like Courtney and Overton, have to play a lot of reps, you do wonder about holding up in a tight ball game late. And the third thing is spread the wealth. They have 4 guys, really 5 guys, with Preston, Duncan, Courtney, Reed, and Overton that have over 200 receptions total. I mean, so Tristan Evans, who has the record for now, VHSL career touchdown passes, there's no reason whatsoever that he shouldn't, be able to just disperse this thing to everyone on the field and keep everybody happy and involved here. Should be a fun ball game. I've got it scored differently than both Danny Lewis and Coach Young. They have the Springers. I've got the Eagles taking it 35-27. So let us know what you think, where you think we're right, where you think we're wrong, who will be the MVPs from these 6 games. I want you to comment on that. Tell us who's going to be the winners. Give us your score prediction. If you hit the score on the nose, maybe I'll give you a prize, like a T-shirt or something. I don't know. I'll send you something. If you hit the score on the nose, you can't say, Freedom's going to win and you get wrong by 40 points. You got to hit the score on the exact margin. Maybe I'll give you a prize. But as always, whether you do that or not, we always love your feedback and interaction with us. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This has been the latest edition of On the Hash with Hatfield. We'll probably put a bow and a ribbon recap of the games next week as we put the fall sports season to bed, and it should be a lot of fun with the state championship football games coming up at UVA, Liberty, and Salem. We thank you for tuning in. This will be the last edition here before the season comes to a close, and I'm out. So long from Charlottesville and the Plex. This edition of On the Hash with Hatfield is available archived as well on our Virginia Beach Sportsplex YouTube channel and on VirginiaPreps.com. So long, and enjoy your fall weekend.